Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for joining us. Another session, another math session today. And I'm so pleased to see you all there, connecting to this program. We just want to thank, first of all, our engineers, those who are making these things possible to happen. This is Mr. Ray, who is with me tonight, and all his team, who is taking care of the sound and other technical issues. Thank you so much to Mr. Matensi Jacques and the Ukfc TV, who have given me this opportunity to appear live to your homes and go through together this session of maths. This can't even remember now. Is it the third or the fourth session? But all it is we feel happy to be able to go through these sessions. Thank you once more for all your comment. Thank you for all your suggestions and everything that you're doing to support us. To support especially Ukfc TV, to support AFSCS, Mr. Jacques Matensi, for all that he's doing in the community, for all that he's doing sacrifices to help and support people's lives. Thank you so much. In today's session, quickly, we actually going behind the time, running out of time every single time. People are saying that it's a bit short. They want it a bit longer. But the maximum that we can do should be an hour, and it's not easy to have another session due to other duties that we have. We can only keep it between 30 minutes or a maximum of 45 minutes. Okay, as long as you can pick up one thing, something out of each session. That's good. And the session are designed for all of you parents to watch, to be able to support your student, to support your children, to support all your children coming from schools with their homework, with their tasks, with their assignments. And also especially to you, children, you people who go to schools. We all know in the UK there's a good news that schools should be able to open again from the 8th of March. So we will, see you people to go back to schools and be able to enjoy your classrooms and your lessons in classrooms. Okay, we hope that you enjoyed and you had a very good time during the live lessons, the online lessons, and especially this one here that we were able to have every single week. We hope, we believe that you enjoyed it and you keep on enjoying it. Okay, your suggestions and your appreciations and everything are welcome, and we do take them into consideration. So again, for this session today, thank you for being there. Thank you for sharing it, and obviously share all the activities of Ukfc TV. Okay, really good activities that they're organizing every week for all of us, and I think our needs are getting satisfied, okay, through the work of this organization. Thank you. Okay, here we go. Let's get started. Last time what we did was to be able to go through the 4 operations of fractions. We did how to add, multiply, divide, subtract fractions. That's what we did. We could have continued with the same topic, but based on your suggestions, okay, we thought, okay, we're just gonna leave that a little bit and still stay in the number area, in the number sessions, but this time touch a little bit on percentages. Okay, and hopefully our next session we can touch again a bit on ratios. Okay, and obviously move from numbers probably to data or statistics, or move straight to geometries and do some work on shapes. Okay, so thank you so much. So this lesson today is actually on how to find a percentage of an amount. Okay, it's a very useful lesson because those who be doing higher paper or foundation paper, okay, can obviously find it interesting and can learn something from here, okay, or can obviously build their confidence, okay, to throw away any kind of confusion that they may have or they had before. All right, so those of you who've got access to Maths Watch, okay, you can find, you know, similar lessons, similar questions, some tasks to do, okay, on the 86 and 87 clips, okay, and this work today will be a grade 3 work, okay, this is grade 3, okay, so please bear with me and make sure you pay attention. There'll be some little questions that I would like to try, you know, in your homes, okay, so get a pen and paper ready, okay. When you see a task, some questions, you can, you know, try them on, okay. Maths is all about practicing. The more you practice, okay, and you know, the more you remember it and it stays there. You won't forget it. Even after 10 years, you still don't remember. There are parents out there, when they look at all these things we're going through, you know, they know it already, okay. Why? Because they learned it before. And those things they learned before, they were so confident at the time, and those things have stayed there for 10 years later, up until now they're able to remember, and even to help you out, you student, you children, you know, with your work and assignment, okay? So please have a pen and paper. You can, you know, keep on trying as we go through, as we go along, okay? So we working on how to find a percentage of an amount, okay? The learning outcomes for this session today is for you, at the end of this lesson, at the end of this session, you to be able to find a percentage of an amount without a calculator, okay? With that calculator, remember the paper one has always been a non-calc paper, a non-calculator paper. So you most of the time find questions on percentages on that paper, okay? And this is what we're trying to do, to be able to find a percentage of an amount without a calculator. Okay. The second thing is you should be able to use a multiplier to find a percentage of an amount. This time is how you would use it. How you would use a calculator, okay, to work out these kind of questions. All right. So first thing, find a percentage without a calculator. Second thing, find a percentage using a calculator. This time by using a multiplier. Right, so the key word you will hear me mentioning every time, every now and then, will be word like percentage, multiplier, calculate, and so on. Right, let's get started. The first bit will be how we can use a different method to find, you know, a percentage of an amount without a calculator. Okay, so a non-calc method. Right, first thing. Okay, I'm just going to show you some key players in how you can work out percentages. Right. For people who do speak French, I think they would know straight away what percentage means. Percentage, percent. It simply means per 100. Okay, so the percentage is simply like a fraction out of 100 when you divide by 100. The bottom number is always 100%, per 100. Okay, that's percentage. And the key players in working out percentages are these ones. Please watch. Okay, is basically how you would find 1%. 1%. To find 1% of an amount, okay, you simply divide the amount by 100. That's it. Okay, so you're dividing the amount divided by 100. So to find 1%, you simply divide by 100 and you find the amount. To find 10%, okay, this time you divide by 10. Okay, 10% you divide by 10. That says something about percentage means out of 100. Out of 100. So the 10%, okay, 10% will be the same as writing 10 out of 100. So 10% is 10 divided by 100. 1% is 1 over 100. 20% is 20 over 100. So you always divide by 100. And when you get 10 over 100, after simplifying, you're left with 1/10. Okay, so the amount you divide by 10. All right, this is an important one, a key player in working out your percentages of any amount. Okay, so remember, finding 10%, you simply divide the amount by 10. Finding 1%, you simply divide the amount by 100. Finding 25%, you divide by 4. And finding 50%, okay, you divide by 2. Okay, 100% of an amount is simply means the whole of the amount, 100%. So the whole the amount represents 100%. And 50% will be half of that amount, 50%, half of the amount. So you simply divide the amount by 2. You half the amount. And 25% is simply half and half again. All right? Or get the amount divided by 4. All right? So these are the key players. Okay? Things that you can easily do without a calculator. Okay? 1% divided by 100. 10% divided by 10. 50% half it. 25% divided by 4. Or half and half again. All right? This is what you'll be doing. Okay? And you can use these 4 key players to work out the percentage of any amount. Okay? So you can use them, okay, to work out any percentage of an amount. Right? So we go from these. So these 4 are very important for you to remember and for you to make sure you understand how to use them. Simply divide. Can I just mention this very quickly, guys? 10% is when we divide, 10% we divide by 10. But 20% we don't divide by 20. That's something different that we will see later. Okay? So 10% divide by 10. 20% you do something else. That's what we will do. Okay? So all we're saying is we can use these percentages that we know to find other percentages. All right? Okay? This is what we will do with what you just saw, okay, in this previous slide. You can do that to find, 20%, 30%, 60%, any percentages. Okay? You can use that method, okay, those key players, to find these percentages. All right? 20%, 2%, 30%, 60%, any percentage, you can find it by using those key players. All right? Now, 20%, as I said earlier on, 20% doesn't mean you divide by 20. No, it doesn't work that way now. Okay? 20%, you need to think of 20%, okay, in terms of 10%. And we know that 20% will simply be 2 lots of 10%. Okay? So 20% will be 2 lots of 10%. 5% will be half of 10%. Remember these ones, please. Remember them. 15%, all you're doing, you go from 10% and 5% and 1%, 50%, 25%. Okay, those were the key players that we will use to work out any percentages. Okay, and 15%, what you do is you find 10%, you find the 5%, then you add them up. 10% plus 5% will make 15%. 2.5%, you simply half and half 10 again. Okay, you half 10%, then half again. Or you simply do half of 5%, and so on. These are what you can do. Remember all this method, okay? What you can do, okay, to find all those percentages of amount without using a calculator. There will be some little tasks, some little questions on these ones, how we can apply them, and to make sure that you understand what you're doing and you are able to find the percentages of those amounts. First question, we need to find 10% of £15. Okay? I made it easy for you at the top. I wrote the rule to find 10%. All you do is you simply divide by 10. Okay, you simply divide by 10. So what we're doing is we're putting this in a table of values. Table of values, remember, decimal, unit, tens, hundreds, table of values, okay, tenth, hundredth, and so on. When we divide by 10, we're moving one step to the right. Okay, we divide by tens, so each of our digits will move one space to the right. This is what we do. We divide by 10. 15 divided by 10 is simply 1.5. Because it's money, we write it as £1.50. So 10% of £15 will be £1.50. Okay, we simply get the amount 15 and divide by 10. £18.20. What will be the 10% of that? Okay, somebody promises you money and tells you, okay, I'll give you 10% of that money. Whatever I'll get, I'll give you 10%. And the person comes to you and say, well, I've earned £18.20, and now you need your 10% from £18.20. How much will it be? How much will he give you? Okay, to find 10%, you simply divide by 10. Divide by 10. Put that in the table of values. All right, dividing by 10, we move in the digits one space to the right, and this will become £1.82. So the person who had to give you 10% from £18.20 will give you £1.82. All right, this is simple as it is. 10% of an amount, just get the amount and divide by 10. Right, it's just simple that. Remember that, yeah. So 10% of the amount, you simply divide by 10. You got some questions there, okay, as I told you. Okay, please have a pen and paper ready. Okay, try these questions from what you just learned. Okay, find 10% of the quantities shown. Question number 1: what will be 10% of £54? What will be 10% of £675? What will be 10% of £3,500? What will be 10% of £2.70? Okay, it's your turn to do. Okay, seconds. Do at least one. Try one if you can. At least the first question. Okay, 10%. You simply divide by 10, and your answer should have been 54 divided by 10 will make it £5.40. Then second question divided by 10. You divide by 10, and that will make it £67.50. Question number 3 will be £350. Question number 4 will simply be 27 pence. Question number 5 will simply be 7.3 meters. Question number 6 will be giving you 42.5 millimeters. You simply divide by 10. Simple as that, guys. Simple as that. Okay, simple and simple as that. 10% of the amount, you simply divide by 10. Simple as that. Please remember that, yeah? You got some different questions here. Okay, you can try them if you want to. 10% of £400. Maths is all about practicing. Okay, the more you do it, you know, the more confident you become. Okay, do more work, practice a bit more, a lot more practice will build your confidence. So 10% of 400, remember the rule. To find 10%, we simply divide by 10. Okay, so to find 10% of 400, what you simply do is you're doing 400, you're dividing it by 10, which makes it £40. All right, so 10% of 400 will be £40. Okay, you can try the rest. You can try the rest. You can try the rest. Okay, if you're not live, okay, you can pause the video. Okay, you can pause the video and then have a go at the questions. When you finish, then press play and then see the answers. And your answers should have been these ones. There you go. Okay, try that in your own time. Okay, show your workings, and you should be able to find those answers as they appear on your board, on your screen. Right, okay. These are kind of real life questions. Okay, you go somewhere, you go into a shop, okay, to buy something, and they're telling you in the shop that all the items have been, okay, discounted, and they have a 10% discount on each of those items. Okay, you got a washing machine, okay, which is on discount, 10% discount, 10% discount for the car, 10% discount for all those items that you see. Okay, now they're asking you to find the discount in each case. It's 10% discount. What does that mean? Okay, how much is it in money? How much are you saving? Okay, so find 10%. What does it mean? What is it basically in money? right? How much have you been able to save if you have to buy from this shop? Okay, so the washing machine is £275. That's the original price. Now the discount of 10%, how much will it be? How much is the discount? So to find 10% of that, of 275, remember what you do is, you simply do 275, you divide it by 10. Why? Because that is the 10%. This is what you would do to find 10%. And this will give you 27.50. It's money. Alright? So you'll be able to save £27.50, which represent 10% of the original value. Okay? If you were to buy that car, okay, your 10% of the money that you'll be able to save will be this amount. You simply dividing it by 10. Divided by 10, and you're left with £634. So the 10% will represent £634. Okay. The rest of the question I leave them to you to do. Okay. Then you can pause the video, have a look at those questions, okay, and then press play when you finish to check your answers, what you got and what appears on the screen. There you go. Okay. Thank you. Remember, this is grade 3 work. Okay, whereby you always to make sure you show your workings every single time. Now, we've come to this this step here where now all we need to do is to find 20%. What we were doing before was to find 10%, but now we need to work out 20%. Okay, guys, please remember, to find 10%, you divide the amount by 10. But to find 20%, you do not divide by 20. This is the mistake that many people have been making. Okay, thinking that 20% to find it, all you do is you divide by 20. No, please, it doesn't work this way. Don't make that mistake. Okay, so 20% of 140, what you do is you need to go through finding 10%. You need to find 10% first. And remember what we did just earlier on. I did show you a table. Okay, 20% will represent two lots of 10%. So you need to find 10% first. 10% of 140 divided by 10, which will be £14. So 20%, what you do is will be two lots of 10%, which will be two lots of 14, which gives you 28. Okay, here to go from 10 to 20, you times by 2. Okay, that means to go from, okay, to find the next value, you do 14, you times by 2, and you get 28. Okay, so you need to go by finding 10% first, and then you times it by 2. Okay, because 20% will be two lots of 10%. 30%, you need again to find 10% first, find 10%, then you times it by 3. Because 30% will be 3 lots of 10%. Okay, remember that? So 20% of the second example, 20% of £1 20 pence, find 10%, which is 12 pence, times by 2, which will give you 24 pence. Okay, there you go. Seconds, just look at the questions. What do you think the values of a 20% will be for each of those amounts? What will be the values of 20% of each of those amounts? How would you find 20% of 84? How would you find 20% of 640? All right. Remember the method? You need to go through finding 10% first. So you find 10% first, and 10%, the way you find it is by dividing the amount by 10. Okay, so what you do first, £84, what 10% of that, which will give you £8.40. 20% you times by 2. Okay, and you should end up with these values, with these answers. There. There. Okay, thank you. Right, excuse me. The exact same question that we had earlier on. What we're doing, trying to find 20% discount of those amount, okay, or the prices of those items. You walk into a shop, you find these items, and they're telling you that those items are on discount, they're on sale, and there's 20% discount, 20% discount. Now they're asking you to find what will be the discount in each item in this case, okay? Finding 20% of 275, what you do, you find 10% first. Please guys, remember, please listen, please, you find 10% first. When you see 20%, it does not mean you need to divide the amount by 20. No, dividing the amount by 20 because it's 20%. No. That's not the right way. What you do is you finding 10% first, and you know that 20% are 2 lots of 10%. So what will be the 10% of 275? Okay, you divide by 10, which will give you £27.50. Okay, 2 lots of that, you times it by 2, and you find the answer. 10% of that is 10% is 634, and 20% will be, you times that by 2, because 20% is 2 lots of 10%. Okay, you do the exact same thing for all the other question, and your answers, you should end up with, the first answer is £55, and the rest are there on your screen. Okay, before looking at my answers, what you could do is you could pause the video or go through the questions yourselves, okay, and when you finish, then press play on the video, and this should be a very good way for you to compare your answers to the answers, the right ones that I have on the board. And if you manage to get all the answers correct, that's amazing. That will be really good, really impressive. Okay, that shows that you've learned something and you've managed to build your confidence. Okay, next bit is what you would do to find 5% of £80. 5%. What did we say? We say this, that we always go by finding 10%. Okay, so the 10% of the amount, how you do it, how you find it, you divide by 10. 10% divided by 10. Okay, then if 10% you divide by 10, and now they're asking you about 5% of what you would do to find 5%. Can you just look at this? From 10 to 5, what happened? What did we do? We divided by 2. From 10 to 5, we divide by 2. That means if you have an answer here, okay, you have an amount there, X, to find the 5%, get the amount, the 10% of the amount, you also divide it by 2, and you would find your value, okay, for the 5%. Okay, so for the £80, what we do is find 10% first, and the 10% will be 8. Okay, how do you go from 10 to 5? You divide this, the left hand side, divide by 2. Okay, and you also divide the 8 divided by 2, and you find 4. So 10% is 8, 5% will be 4 divided by 2. Okay, next bit, what will be 5% of 40 pence? You find 10% first. Please remember, you finding 10% first. Do not fall into the misconceptions that some other people develop. Do not get confused, okay, of thinking that 5% you divide the amount by 5. No, it doesn't work that way. You always go by finding 10%. Once you find the 10%, okay, and you can simply divide that by 2 to find your value, to find your answer, which is 2 pence. Okay, another task. Okay, right, don't need that. Okay, this time, okay, the question down, what will be 15%? Let me get rid of these ones. 15% of 80. 15% of 80. All right, let's go through this. Yeah, Correct. 15% of 80. Remember, 15 equals what? 15 equals 10, add 5. Okay? I'm using those key players, the 10%, 1%, the 20%, and so on. So you always, again, go by finding 10%. 10% of 80 will be 8, divided by 10, okay? If 10% is 8, 5% of that will be 4. And when you get 10, add 5, will make it 15%. This side, on the right hand side, you always have to add. Okay, when you add them 2, okay, 10 add 5 will be 15. Now you add 8 and 4, you get 12. So 15% is £12. Same thing for the next question. What you need to do, finding 10%. After that, what you need to do, finding 5%, half that. Okay, you half that. You add them up now. 10 add 5, 15% will be 36 pence when you add 24 and 12. Guys, I hope that you're learning something here, or I hope you're able to sort of refresh your mind about this topic. Okay, I really hope that you were able to find a pen and paper and go through this question yourselves. Okay, just to sort of test yourself, to sort of, you know, build your confidence on this. All right, now next bit is this one's, which are for you to do. Finding 15% of the quantity shown below. All right, how do you do it? Go through 10%, and then you find 5%. 10% add 5% will make it 15%, and you get your values, you get your answers. Okay, I hope you've paused the video. Okay, and now you can check your answers there. This is what you should end up with. These are the answers. Okay. I think this PowerPoint was prepared in a way that you should be able to find it easier to do your workings and to find the answers. Next bit. Same thing. You walk into the same shop and you find these items with those prices on. And they're telling you that those items are on sale. Okay? They have a discount of 15%. 15%. And those 15%, how much in terms of money? What do they represent? And at this stage now, you already know how to find 15% of an amount. Okay? You already know how to find 15% of an amount. So what do? You go by finding 10% first. And then you find 5%. Okay? And you know that 10% add 5% will be 15%. So 10% of 300 is divided by 10 is 30. 5% you half it will be 15. So that means 15% you now add these values together, which will give you £45. So an item of £300, if you have to buy it from this shop, you will save an amount of £45, which represent 15%. Okay? And the answers to the other questions, after you pause the video and had a go yourself, you should get these amount. Please check them with what you did. All right? Yes. Okay. 25%. This will be straightforward. What did you say about 25%? 25% you simply half and half again. Okay? Or get the amount divided by 4. That's it. 25%. 50% you half it. 25% you half again. So you half and half again. Or get the amount, you simply divide by 4. Divide the amount by 4 and you find the answer. Okay? If you pause the video and have a go yourself, and then you come back to it, press play, this should be the answer that you should have had. There. You simply half and half again. Straightforward. 25%. This is what you would do to find 25% of an amount. You simply get the amount, half it, and half it again. Okay, and you find the answer. Right, let's go quickly on these ones. These items here, the exact same thing. Read the question, what it says. Read the question. It's about finding 25% discount. How much does it represent in terms of money? Okay, how much does it represent? So what you do is you simply half and half again. This is what you would do to find 25% of an amount. You half and half again, right? If somebody promises some money and tells you that I'll give you 25% of the amount, okay, what you should expect is that amount half and half again, okay? And what you would have at the end will be the amount of money that you would earn, okay? Thank you. Now, these are the answers that you should have. Yeah, there. Okay? Let's move on now. Okay? Now, this time, this is sort of a mixture, okay, of different percentages of an amount. Yeah, that you should be able to work out. You should be able to find, okay? At this stage, you should be able to find it. Question number 1, 40%. Go through finding 10%, please. You find 10% first. How do you find it? Divide by 10. Get the amount, £24, divide by 10. And then you times it by 4. Okay? Because 40% is 4 lots of 10%. 60% is 6 lots of 10%. Find 10% first. 70% is 7 lots of 10%. Okay? Of the amount. This is what you should be doing. Okay, when you go through 10%, you should find the answer easily. Okay, question number 5, 50% is straightforward. 50% is simply half the amount by pressing play. Okay, there, right. Some other questions just for you to do. I ain't gonna touch anything in here. You can do yourselves. Okay, of those 10% or 50%, get them done. That'll be good. Those ones, get them done. You'll be okay with these ones. Okay, you'll find your answers. No worries at all. 30%. Okay, get a 10%. Then you times it by 3. Okay, and you got some questions with mixed percentages questions, right? Nothing to worry about. You can't get wrong on here. You can't get confused on here. If you do, check the video. Check the question that we did earlier. Okay, you always go through finding 10%. Remember the key players that you went through. Okay, this is another question. This is sort of a worded problems. Okay, this is different questions. Read the questions, understand the question, then you can apply the right method. This is what you would do whenever you have a worded problem. Okay, read the problem, read the question, read it, understand it. Once you understand it, and you would know what to do. Okay, now what are they saying? They're saying in a school of 250 children, 4% in a school of 450 students, 450 children, 4% of them were away ill. That means 4% of 250 students are sick. Okay, they were absent. They were not in school. Now, how many students or how many children were there? How many children were absent? How many children were ill? Okay, so the question is to find 4% of 250 students. Okay, how will you do this? 4% of 250, 4%. Okay, you can start by finding 4%, 10%. You always do by finding 10%, but 10%, that would be a very long way to go. Okay, how would you end up to 4%? Easily, what you should do is by finding 1%. 1%. So you need to find 1%. Once you find 1%, you can times it by 4. Okay, you find 1%, and then you simply times it by 4. Right? So what will be 1%? 1% of 250. Remember what we did. You need to divide by 100. 10% divide by 10. 1% you divide by 100. Okay, and when you divide by 100, you find the answer being 2.5. 1% of 250 is 2.5. So 4%, you go from 1 to 4 by timesing it by 4, and also this side you times it by 4. Okay, so 4% will represent 2.5 times by 4, 2.5 at 2.5 at 2.5 4 times, which will give you 10. That means the 4% of 250 is 10, and these are 10 children. Okay, so 10 children were basically healed, and that represents the value of 4%. All right, the next question is in a box. That's question 1, and this question 2, and this question 3, and this question 4. Okay, in a box, I'm just gonna do the next question. That's it, and I'll stop there, and then we move on to the next task. In a box holding about 500 oranges, okay, 32 oranges have gone bad. How many oranges have gone bad? Okay, what I can help you on this kind of questions, you can do yourselves, you can, yes you can, okay, is basically what you're doing is by finding 32% of 500 oranges. How can you find 32%? Remember 32, I'm trying to help you, 32 can be thought of, you always find 10%. 10% you times by 3, this will make it 30%. Okay, and 30%, now we need 2%, and 2% can be thought of 1% times by 2, or 1% add 1%. Okay, you are able to find 10% of 500, which is 500 divided by 10, which is 50, times by 3, 150. Then you can find 1%. 1% is dividing by 100. Okay, so that will be 500 divided by 100, which is 5. So that will be 5, and this will be 5. When you add them all up together, you should find 150 plus 5, which is 160. So that means 160 oranges went bad. The rest of those 2 questions are for you to do. Okay, if you struggle, drop me a comment or inbox to AFCS. They'll be able to pick it up, and then we will get in touch and help. Okay, there. For this one here, 10% of 17. What would be the answer? What will be your answer? Come on, let me know. What did you say? 10% of 17 is divided by 10 is 1.7. Did you get it right? Okay, next question. Come on. Okay, here we go. This one. Okay, 10% of 60. What is your answer? 10% of 60. What is your answer? Dividing by 10, and the answer is 6. Did you get it right? Well done if you did. Okay, next question. 50% of 18. 50% of 18. Come on, what is your answer? 5 seconds. 50%, you simply half it, which is 9. Well done. Next question. There, 10% of 510. What is your answer? 2 seconds. Yes, 51 divided by 10. All right, next one. 50% of 20. 50% of 20 is simply half of the amount, which will give you 10. Okay. 1% of 87. I'm giving you 2 seconds with this. 1%. How do you find 1%? Divide by 100. Divided by 100, and you should end up with 0.87. There. Next one. What is 50% of 84? How do you work this out? You simply divide it by 2. You halve the amount, and you end up with 42. Correct? All right. 10% of 540. Yes, 54. Okay. 10% of 690. Correct, 69. Next one. 50% of 294. Ooh. This is yours to do. How many minutes? How many seconds? Come on. Yeah. How do you do it? Yeah. 147. Simply half it. Half the amount. Half the amount. 880. What's your answer? 88. Divide by 10. Yeah. 88. 1% of 820. 2 seconds. Yes, 8.2. You obtain that by dividing it by 100. Okay, right. Now this is yours to do. Just a quick task that you can actually do and build your confidence. A lot more practice for you to do at home. Okay, there are simple different questions that you can do. Okay, you can fill the table. Which questions can go on which column? That is your task to do. Thank you. Any question, let me know. Okay, this is the very last one where you can spot the error just to check your understanding. Somebody, a student that was given this question to work out 35% of 120, this is what the person did. He went on to find 10%, which is correct, and 10% dividing by 10, he got £1.20. Is that correct or not? What would you say? Okay, 30% will be that. Okay, and 5% is what he did. So what do you think the mistake is? Where do you think you made a mistake? Okay, thank you. Finding 10% is the correct thing to do. You did well there. You always go by finding 10%. And 10% of 120, you find that by divide by 10. Dividing it by 10. Dividing by 10, we're finishing anyway. Okay, we're dividing by 10. So when you divide it by 10, your answer should be £12. Okay, and 30%, you times that by 3, and your answer should be not 3.60, but obviously £36. If 10% is 12 and 5% will not be 60, 5% will be 6. And obviously to find 15%, you need to add 12 to 36 and obviously to 6. Okay, you add all the three values and you find your final answer. Ladies and gentlemen, parents, thank you so much for watching this maths session for today. We hope to have another session again next week. Okay, and we hope as well that you'll be there and you'll be watching us live. Okay, thank you for today. Thank you for all your comment. Thank you for all your suggestion again. Thank you for being in touch with Ukfc TV to watch, to follow all the programs, okay, that they've designed for our own good, for our own purposes, for our own needs, okay, to support us. Thank you so much for what this organization is doing. Thank you to Mr. Jacques Matensi and all his team. Thank you to all the engineers, Ray, Jetro, and all others. Thank you to you parents. Thank you to you people for watching us. Okay, all I have to say now is bye bye, and hopefully see you again next week. Thank you. Good night to all of you. Bye.